basically your mission then is broad.
Our mission is to support abused and neglected children pretty much any way we can, but we do that really through community awareness and education to further protect children. And, this year's Child Summit is really focused, the Child Summit is always focused on youth and how we can better protect youth. But this year, because of the events at Parkland, our focus is on youth mental health, because that is just so key to so many things that are happening to our kids.
And of course, not just the events at Parkland, but, continuing the trend has been that the children are more in need than ever of people understanding and giving them the tools they need, and yet funding is continuing to be cut. So it's kind of...
Exactly. And that's really, Sue Ellen, that's really, as you know, one of the reasons that we started the Child Summit, was because we knew that funding was not available for the people that are working with and for children to go to other places like Orlando or Miami or Fort Lauderdale for additional training. So that's when we started the Child Summit. This will be our 7th Child Summit, and it will be the 6th summit that's being hosted at IRSC. So we also then partnered with Sandy Pines to provide continuing ed credits for those that need continuing ed units for their licensing. And I'm happy to say that this is the first year that we are providing more CEUs than we have in any other year. The first day of the summit we'll be offering 6.5 CEUs, and on day 2, 6 CEUs. So, these are all free. The summit's free. We even provide a free lunch. So it really has become a premier educational opportunity for people in our community.
And one of the reasons it's important to, first of all, as you stated, talking about, you don't want these professionals to have to travel and, pay fees to go to the different types of educational summits, but also to take the time off is troublesome too, because a lot of times they wear multiple hats.
Exactly.
And they can't afford to take 2 or 3 days off to go out of town, but to go to the summit here. Is this the first year that it is 2 days, or has it always been 2 days?
No, it's always been 2 days. And this year, because there was so much information that we wanted to provide, we were almost thinking of doing 2.5 days. And as you can see on the agenda, it's really packed. So we really do put a lot of time and energy into the sessions, and one of the reasons we provide a free lunch is because we want to be sure that people don't disperse, that we can keep things.
They don't go to eat and not come back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got them, you're going to keep them.
That's right.
And honestly, the type of information that you provide, even people that are not health professionals but are people in the community who need to know this information, like high school guidance counselors and
even daycare providers.
There are a lot of people who it is a free summit, and it's free courtesy of the organizations and the sponsors that have come forward to do that for you. And the CEUs, they're important too, that you're able to give them out, because that's an attractor for you.
Exactly.
Because the health care professionals are required to have continuing education,
especially for their licensing. And we're hoping that next year we'll be able to offer CMEs, which means then we can provide continuing credits to the medical community because, again, we want to be able to attract, nurses and healthcare professionals.
What are some of the other subjects that past child summits have covered?
Wow. We've covered everything from suicide intervention prevention to human trafficking to the sexual exploitation of children. And actually, when we first started, more of our summit was sort of law enforcement because that time those were the contacts that we actually had. And of course, now, as you can see, for this year's summit, almost everyone that's presenting is either has a doctorate in psychology or is a PhD. And of course, we also have love our sheriff's panel. The sheriff's panel is it is really one of the highest rated on our evaluations because they really talk about everything that's happening within their own counties. And unfortunately, this year, Sheriff Noel Stevens from Okeechobee can't attend, but we have the DEA agent Sheldon Burkett, which will be sitting in for him. And Sheldon always keeps things interesting.
You never know what he's going to say.
I know.
And of course, although this is just the Treasure Coast, so you're talking about people who are coming from the 4-county area, from Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Okeechobee, and even beyond.
Yes, actually, we've had people from Fort Lauderdale, as far as Fort Lauderdale, and as far north as Melbourne. So, like I said, every year we're getting more and more attendees, and this year we're actually setting up for 400.
And before we go any farther, even though we will remind people as the show goes on, the summit is September 26th and 27th, and it's going to be held at IRSC at the Public Safety Training Complex, which is an awesome location for this type of summit.
Yes.
And the people come from all around the Treasure Coast and beyond, but you also, your panelists come also and address the issues that everybody wants to hear. Here in St. Lucie County, they do have the See Something, Say Something program for the school district.
Right.
And that's what's in the break room everywhere. And, as a former teacher, I'm well aware that kids know the stuff that's going on, that they see and they hear everything. They just don't know when to say something or what's important enough to say. Like and they're not sure who to say it to.
Right.
Correct. And so the school district, as well as other surrounding school districts too, have started that program, and that's really similar to what you're talking about. See it, say it.
Right.
Because it's just important, not just for the kids, but for in the school system, the teachers. When you're an English teacher like I was, and somebody writes an essay about what's wrong with the world and is writing about things in a very angry manner, then it's really up to you to, go and talk to the guidance counselor and say, hey, are there issues that we need to be looking at here?
Right. That is so true. And one of the things that I think is so important is that, and I have to always provide my disclaimer. My disclaimer is that my business career was in international business. So when I came here to Florida to retire, I really had...
How'd that work out for you?
Right. Yes, exactly. I worked just as hard, but without any pay.
Yeah.
And I teasingly say that each year to the speakers that we have coming in, and I had Jeff Shearer from Tykes and Teens said, you know what, you got to stop saying that because you're so deep in it now.
Yes.
Both
There's no getting out.
right.
Yeah.
But it is so important that people learn, as you said, that there are signs of various things that shouldn't go unnoticed. And that's one of the things that, we're really focusing on this year is about, what are the signs? And, one of the topics this year is the impact of parental substance abuse in children at various developmental stages. Because, what it, we've had presentations before on what it looks like in utero, but, substance abuse can impact a child at other other stages of development. So it may not be until they're 4, 5, 6, or even maybe 10 that some of these things will be, revealing themselves.
And you're not even talking about their own substance abuse.
Right.
You're talking about
Their
their parents.
Right, or whoever
Yeah.
they're living
Yeah.
with. And little squirrel moment, I have to always add this. People don't know it, but every single person in the state of Florida is a mandated reporter. So it's not just professionals, it's you, your next door neighbor. If you see something and you suspect that there is child abuse and you don't report it, then I think it's a felony. So, and that started several years ago because daycare providers, there were some situations where daycare providers weren't reporting what they thought was abuse, and it turned out to be really a very unfortunate case for the children. So several years ago, Florida decided to change the law that every single person in the state of Florida is a mandated reporter.
And you can report anonymously.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
absolutely can.
Yes.
And there's 800 number, and there's different agencies that will steer you in the direction
Absolutely.
that you need to go. But when you're talking about that, think about the woman and the family that was living in the backyard somewhere
A few years ago,
out
that was
west, yeah.
horrible.
And neighbors knew
Mhm.
that they were always outside in the backyard, and they were worried about it, and they
Never reported it.
yeah, they didn't report it because they kind of thought it wasn't their business.
Right. Well, you and I feel the same way. Children are everyone's business.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, they are.
They absolutely are, and sometimes, Debbie, that has been my downfall.
Yes. I get that. I get that.
But anyhow, the Child Summit again takes place September 26th and 27th, which is next Wednesday and Thursday.
Yes.
And it's a full day thing, and you will have lunch included, and you can. It's so easy to sign up. You
Yes.
just go to the information online, and you can find it either through the Facebook or the website, right?
Yes, correct. You can go to our website, which is GFNF for kids, the letter 4, or number 4, kids.org, and you can just go to the event tab, click on that, and sign up for whichever day you want to attend. You can also see the agenda. And I'm telling you, it is an amazing event. And this one, I tell everybody, this I know is better than any of the other ones we've hosted.
You said sign up for whichever day you want to attend, but you can attend both,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, because it's not a
Yes.
repeat. It's just two
Cool.
different days full of activities. And on the website and on the Facebook event page, there's a lot of details on what is covered when.
Correct.
So if you have a busy schedule and you're not able to go, you can pick
Exactly.
the day and time.
And we actually have some of the faculty at IRSC that will drop in and out because they're either teaching classes or have other commitments on campus. But yes, absolutely, you don't have to attend the full day, but I would recommend every topic that we're presenting this year, I think people will be pleasantly surprised and walk away with an enormous amount of knowledge.
Generally, in addition to healthcare professionals and guidance counselors, and you have a lot of nonprofit partners
Correct.
who send people to this, and then of course they come back with information that they garner, and you give them, more than just a stand up telling them, lecturing them what they need to know. You give them tools to bring back to their organization.
Exactly. And that's, from the very beginning, that was something that we really wanted to be able to provide, was not only a topic of this is what's wrong, but how are we going to help the children through these things. And, every year when I talk to, the psychologists or the PhDs, and we talk about what's happening to children, I'm still alarmed, I guess, that there are so many things that are impacting children, and there's so many things that we can do to help them.
And that's one of the great things both about you and the summit is you're not this isn't just a summit filled with things to watch for and things to warn people about, but it's also solutions.
Correct, correct. And it's for me, I guess, because this, in the past, this was not my, this was not in my arena. I didn't know that there were so many children that were abused and neglected or abandoned. And I am just, every year I listen to these presentations, and it's like these aha moments. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that's why that child was doing that. Or I didn't realize, okay, maybe the child's falling asleep in the classroom. Well, it's not because the kid's lazy. It's probably because they were afraid to go to sleep. Or there was something else going on in their home. And, it's, I don't know, it's a sad topic sometime. But the thing is, the more we educate people about what is happening to children, what a great opportunity for us to make a difference in their lives.
And that is the thing, really, not only about children, but about every other human being that is around us, is we just don't know what road they've just come down.
Correct.
We don't know what they're dealing with, and what is creating the situation that is making them act or say, and it could be temporary, it could be a temporary issue, or it could be something that is building to a more serious issue, like we saw at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas,
Right.
where without a doubt there were warning signs,
Oh
and
my
kids
gosh.
saw and teachers saw.
And it's so sad because every single agency, my heart, I've said this to you before, Sue Ellen, my heart bleeds for the parents that lost their children, but my heart also bleeds for that child. That child was adopted when he was 4. You have no idea how many adverse childhood experiences this child had. And every single, so let's jump to that. One of the things, I get a little misty about that, but
yeah.
one of the reasons, because of what happened, Jeff Scher from Tyson Teens is doing a presentation called Missed Opportunities, which is a deconstruction of Sandy Hook, which we hope will definitely show how all of these signs and signals were missed, and what can we do to prevent another thing like Sandy Hook or Parkland.
And how many of us lay awake at night after Sandy Hook, imagining the children that were hidden in the cupboards there, and that heard what was going on, and then when they escaped, these little kids had to jump or run past their
I know
fellow students, and so it was a traumatic event for all of us who watched on TV, for the kids that were there, for the parents whose kids died or were injured, for the teachers and the adults, and as you said, for the family. And the a lot of the kids with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas have come out, and I don't remember who first coined the term. I think one of them, David Hogg, or one of the other kids, and said, we are the generation that grew up. It's been 20 years
Right.
of one thing after another, that in their lifetime they are accustomed to seeing this happen. It's become business as usual instead of a scary, horrible, horrific thing that will never be repeated in a million years. And lately I've been fascinated with books that have taken those type of situations and fictionalized them, or used them, or been written about them. And there's a lot that you can learn from that. But one of the things that you learn from how many there are out there is that this is as everyday an occurrence. Sometimes you look at the headline and you got to imagine somebody's going, oh, well, nobody was killed, so it wasn't a big deal. Well, it's always a big deal, because
Yes.
it always could have escalated. So anyhow, we could go
I
off
know.
on this
I
forever. I know we
I
could,
know, I
but
know.
let's talk specifically about who is on the agenda and what people can learn. And right before we do that, I just have to tell you one thing I
Okay.
saw today.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there is a sculpture that one of the Oliver, Joaquin Oliver, his father did, that is floating around on the internet today. And it's an iron cast sculpture of a kid hiding under a desk.
Oh. Mm.
And it's
Ugh.
just, what have we come to that this is everyday life? And
Well, and that's really why we really have to concentrate on the mental health of youth, and birth to 4 or 5 is so important. And there's something called they're called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And the more adverse childhood experiences a child or individual has, then the greater likelihood of them becoming involved in domestic violence, substance use abuse, and the list goes on and on and on.
and of course, they're experiencing this on a day-to-day basis, and this is how people resolve disputes in their house, in their neighborhood, in their life.
Yeah, so if we can get to children early and to reduce that trauma, then we have a much greater likelihood of them, becoming healthy adults.
And as far as mental health too, there are some situations that are that's not the
Okay,
word.
right.
Yeah, you know the word I meant.
Yes, I do.
That are made worse.
Right.
It's funny how as I get older that my vocabulary seems to shrink a little bit.
Me too.
That things are made worse from the situations around them, but there are children who were just born with issues
Right.
and ways to deal with things, and that is just how they react and what their needs are, and that's part of what we can train healthcare professionals and other agencies and professionals who are dealing with children on a daily basis.
Yes, and I think Tyson Teens is doing trauma informed care training in with a number of the schools. And again, that's, having a better understanding of how trauma has impacted child, and then how to deal with those children in those situations. Um, and every year we talk about ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and what else we can do. Um, One of the other topics that we have this year is understanding and responding to bullying, because that, as you know, is has become a huge issue, especially with social media.
And not only that, but again, from the school perspective, if you don't mind me stepping in here, a lot of times that word is used when that's not what's happening. And so kids, whether they're 5 years old or whether they're 17, get confused about, if it's a bullying situation or not, and what bullying is and what the results can be. And then how many times do you hear when something goes down that's so traumatic and horrific, and somebody shrugs their shoulders and just blames it on, the child had been bullied.
It goes much deeper.
It's not it's not as simple as that. It's never as simple as that. And the sooner that we learn to define it for us as adults and for the children, I can't tell you how many 17-year-olds really don't understand what bullying is.
Right.
And they talk about bullying, and they just say, oh, well, he was teasing me about something I wrote the other day. No, that's not bullying. He was teasing you.
Right.
Yeah, but and because of that, true bullying incidents are covered up because the kids are confused. They don't know what it is.
Exactly.
So,
one of the other topics, of course, is self-injurious behavior. So cutting is still an issue, and that, I think, in itself is a huge awareness for anyone who's working with children. And as I mentioned, Jeff's going to be doing a presentation on missed opportunities, deconstructing what occurred at Sandy Hook.
And how things could have gone differently.
Yes, exactly.
Which is just chilling.
I know. And then we have interventions for challenging populations, the populations where children are exposed to trauma, abuse, and neglect. And then, of course, we have Dr. Riles from Palm Beach Behavioral Health and Wellness, which will be talking about adolescent substance abuse and use, or behaviors. And, of course, the Sheriff's Panel. And as I said, the Sheriff's Panel is always...
wild and woolly.
It can be, I'm telling you. But, yes, and they are very open and honest about what's going on in their communities and what, we can do.
And, you're talking about adolescent substance abuse, too. And there's a lot that is being discussed now of the different types of drugs. That a lot of drugs are legal, and the kids are finding them in their parents' medicine cabinet, or they have access to things, and when they're used properly, wouldn't be an issue, but
yes,
they're
and
misused.
That is a very good point, and it's kind of a little off subject about the summit, but there are parents and grandparents should really, block their drugs, because if they're taking something, say it's your grandparents. Maybe they had, back surgery and they were taking some painkiller. Well, you know what? If you're not locking that stuff up or getting rid of it, then it's accessible to your grandchildren or somebody coming in and out of your house.
And the kids go in the bathroom, take it out of the cabinet, pour some of the pills out. And
they don't miss one or two, occasionally. So
they either use them or they sell them. And it happens so frequently.
Exactly. So, a little off topic,
but
hey.
But those are the sort of things that people need to be aware of when you're talking about the substance abuse for for adolescents, and adolescence, scarily, it's earlier
Yes.
than, we're not really just talking about kids that are teenagers anymore. You're
No.
talking about, at the
Middle school? Yes.
middle school, and some of the actual late grade school
Mhm.
kids are. The year I taught fourth grade, I had a kid who on a regular basis was using
Wow.
from fourth grade.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and it was just something that was available in his house.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's
So, anyhow, what you'll learn in the summit is you will get an overview of the different issues there are. You'll get an idea of what to watch for. You'll be looking. This summit is geared, of course, on mental health, and you'll be able to find out how to hopefully stop things before they escalate into a situation that would be more severe. Yes, Sandy Hook was a terrible, awful, horrific thing, and every other shooting or every other emergency before then and since then was awful. But when we had it happen an hour and a half south of us, to kids that were, our kids, we ran cross country against their team at districts, and our basketball players played against their basketball team, and these kids knew each other, and I think it really hit home for us here on the Treasure Coast. No matter where it is, it's a serious problem.
Correct.
But for it to hit home like this, I think really got everybody's attention. So the Treasure Coast Child Summit is all of this information all rolled into a 2-day event.
correct.
And you can, again, it's September 26th and 27th, which is
A
Wednesday and Thursday.
next week. Yes.
And you can sign up online. And again, that is www.gfnf4kids.org.
Kids.org.
And then you can also find the organization on Facebook, or you can just put in Facebook Treasure Coast Child Summit, and it'll come up.
Yes.
So a lot of really good information that you can pick up completely free of charge. And just to go over again, you have this stellar list of speakers and panels that are going to be presenting information, and the people that need to come to pay attention to learn about it is anyone who's interested in working with kids.
Yeah, with or for kids. So,
And the organization Guardians for New Futures is also an organization that's you're very active on the Treasure Coast.
yes.
And this is just one of the very many things you do.
Correct. We've brought in probably more than $2 million to benefit kids in either revenue or in kind. We built Sanctuary for Kids 2 years ago, furnished it, and then handed it off to Hibiscus to run, to operate for kids coming into care. We do an annual gift drive every holiday. Last year we served more than 1,000 children.
And this is something that you can be a part of too by going to the website and finding out more about it. Debbie Butler has been my guest. She is the president of Guardians for New Futures. Their annual Treasure Coast Child Summit is coming up on Wednesday and Thursday of this coming week, September 26th and 27th, and you can sign up for it because it's completely free.
Correct.
Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
And it's something that everybody can be a part of, or you can just continue to listen to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show and get bits and pieces of things as I bring in people to talk to you. Thanks for joining me to listen. We'll see you next week with more.
You've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, followed by high school sports on both WPSL and WSTU. Get ready for the big game that's about to be simulcast. We'll be on the air with Mike Thomas in just a couple minutes.